What's going on, YouTube? It's me. So, I will go ahead and say this. This is kind of a surprise of sorts. So, I let a friend of mine pick the next video that I did on this channel. And they cannot stand Super Mario 64. So they told me that I had to do a video explaining why Mario 64 was so bad. So, I had to negotiate because I love this game to death. So, instead, it's going to be kind of a comparison video between this game and Ocarina of Time. Which they actually don't know that. All they know is that I'm working on a Super Mario 64 related video. And, I told them I told them if I made a Mario 64 video, I would discuss, like, all the, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I would discuss, like, the poor points on it, so basically, like, do a review of Mario 64, but as long as you just discuss the bad points. So, what this friend does not know is anything about this video. So, in this video, I'm actually going to be comparing two video games, Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Which is, both are considered classics, and they both have a lot of similarities, but they both also have a lot of differences. And she also doesn't know which one I think is better, so that'll be a surprise for her as well. So, with that death, let's get on with it. So, let's start with the differences. What makes Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time different? So, the first thing that I think of when it comes to Ocarina of Time, at least, is the story. The Zelda games up until that point hadn't really been that story-driven, or the story hadn't been that good. Link to the Past and Link's Awakening both had a fair amount of story, but not enough to where you really felt immersed in it. Ocarina of Time changed all of that. You had this crazily spectacular storyline that really had not been seen in not just a Nintendo game or a Zelda game, but really any video game, and it revolutionized kind of the whole idea of story in gaming as a whole. So that's one thing that I loved about Ocarina of Time. Super Mario 64, you're used to not having much of a story, and that doesn't change at all in Mario 64. It's the same basic story. So, Ocarina of Time's kind of got a point there. Another thing about Ocarina of Time is the music. I think many people love the music from Ocarina of Time. For a good reason, too. Ocarina of Time has one of the best video game soundtracks ever, in my opinion at least. And so many good tracks. Gerudo Valley, Lost Woods, Song of Storms. Just everything. Even like the boss themes and just a couple of the sound effects are very well known. Whereas SM64 didn't have that good a soundtrack. I'm not saying the soundtrack's bad. I'm not saying any of the tracks in the game were bad. I'm just saying there isn't a lot to choose from. Now, I knew that the music repeated, but I figured there were enough unique tracks in the game where it didn't make that much of a difference. Until I actually got, like, the OST for the game, and I realized, wow, this thing is not very extensive at all. A lot of levels repeat themes, and there aren't that many, like, songs to begin with. Honestly, other than, like, the Bob on Battlefield theme, which is, again, used more than once. Other than that theme, I don't think any other pieces from SM64 are considered memorable. I definitely think there are some songs that are considered good, like Koopa's Road, and possibly even, Lethal Lava Land or Dire Dire Docks. But I feel like the one that people remember is definitely Bob on Battlefield, whereas Ocarina of Time, you got multiple tracks people remember. Another point that I had to make, my friend is probably surprised that I've even, given Ocarina of Time this much credit. So another thing is the gameplay. Not just the gameplay of the game itself, but how well it was revolutionary. Mario 64 introduced a lot of new moves, and I'll admit, Ocarina of Time didn't really introduce that much new-wise as in terms of weapons. Mario's got a lot of new moves and brand new power-ups, while Zelda, it's the same cult classics, but the difference is now they have more varied array of powers. And honestly, a lot of people are confused as to why the Mushroom and Fire Flower were not in this game. I'm still confused about that too, because both were added into ROM hacks later and worked completely fine within the context of SM64 and would have worked fine. I get that they wanted the power-ups to work more for, like, you know, a 3D setting, but, like, I don't know, I just feel like they could have done that. I get the wing cap, but the Vanish Cap and Metal Cap really didn't need to replace other power-ups in this game. That's just a personal opinion, though. So I feel like the gameplay of Ocarina of Time is slightly better in terms of what is new and what works. Because, again, Link to the Past had a lot of the items that were reused in Ocarina of Time, but they're good and they're improved upon, whereas Mario 64 only introduces a few new things, and none of them really stuck. Next up, and things I want to talk about, is how well it revolutionized its genre. So, this is the last comparison point I have. So, Super Mario 64, it revolutionized the platforming genre, while Ocarina of Time definitely revolutionized its own kind of puzzle action genre. And the funny thing is, Ocarina of Time was a lot different from Mario 64 in this regard, because Mario 64, I mean, it was a platformer. We hadn't really seen any 3D platformers at the time, but Mario 64 inspired a lot of future platformers, like Banjo-Kazooie and Crash Bandicoot, to name a couple of infamous ones. And with the with the recently released Mario Odyssey, it's shown how far 3D platforming has come since this game. It definitely redefined its genre. Ocarina of Time also redefined its genre, because we got cult classics once again. It's like, I honestly don't think we would have gotten a game as amazing as FF7 without this game. Without Ocarina of Time, we probably wouldn't have gotten FF7 or a lot of other cult classics to the franchise. Or the genre, excuse me. So, that brings us to the similarities. What makes these games alike? What about these games is actually pretty similar? Well, to start off with, they both redefined the genre they were in. They both are considered very cult classics for the N64. Both got recent games on the Switch in their series that sort of returned to this formula. They both were very iconic, both were very highly reviewed, and both are considered classics. Which is better, is the real question. Now, I've played Mario 64 way more than Ocarina of Time, so I would say a casual game, probably Mario 64. You can pick it up, play it like I am right now, and I'm just kind of exploring. I'm not really doing anything. So, if you want to pick up and play a game, that's just Mario 64, but also Mario 64 was released on a console. Pick up and play game would have been something for, like, you know, the Game Boy. So I feel like if this isn't really a sit down and play game, there wasn't a point in it being released on a console. Whereas Ocarina of Time, it's a big story, it's got a lot of stuff, and it is a hard game. A lot of people don't think Ocarina of Time is hard. I think it's one of the harder Zelda games, being topped only by Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild. This game takes forever to beat, and it's a good game if you want to sit down and play a campaign of a Zelda game for a long time. So, that begs the question, which is better? And I could go on and on debating the two, but while my friend who asked me to do this probably believes I'm going to be doing Mario 64 as my top pick, I'm going to surprise them. Because I honestly do think Ocarina of Time is better. I just prefer Mario 64 because it's a pick up and play game, and sit down games aren't really what I do. Ocarina of Time 3D was my chance to finally play it, and I did, and it was amazing. So while I sometimes prefer SM64, I will admit, I think the better game, and in my personal opinion, the better game is Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I've got one major piece of evidence to back this up, other than the stuff I just talked about, and it's that on the video game / movie reviewing site Metacritic, which does a ton of stuff, Mario 64, I believe, is a 96. Ocarina of Time is the only game on that site to get as high as a 99. That means, by their standards, it's a way better game, and honestly, I don't blame them. So with that, that's about all I wanted to say in this video. I hope my friend enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it too. If you want to see more content from me like this, please leave a comment. I'm working on some more weird stuff like comparison videos for video games. So if you have an idea for 2 games you want me to compare, I will try to do so if I have access to both games. Sometimes I don't. I know a lot of you probably say Fortnite and PUBG. Don't have PUBG, so I wouldn't be able to do that. And my Fortnite videos have not gone well in the past, so. But, yeah, if you guys have a video, let me know. I will try to work on it, and I hope that I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of your day.